Hey, honey.
Mom, we're dying.
No, you're not. You're just hungry. Make some Totino's pizza rolls.
We don't have any.
Front.
Left. Totino's.
Well done, Mom. Less drama, more fun. Totino's Pizza Rolls.
Hundreds of bodies pile up in the Libyan capital as sporadic fighting continues. In one hospital, the wounded were left to die as medical staff fled the gunfire. They returned to horrific scenes.
When I entered inside, there is nobody inside. They want help to clean the hospital, to bring life back to this hospital. And this is the catastrophe. Never ever seen like this.
The fight to take Sirte, Gaddafi's hometown. As RAF jets bomb key targets there, we join the rebels.
I like it to see it's better than England, or the best country over the world, the freedom, and everybody can do everything what he like, and will be like to be safer country.
We'll be looking at whether that will be possible and whether the rebel leaders are ready to re-establish law and order in Libya. Also tonight, at least 18 people have been killed after a suicide bombing at the United Nations building in the Nigerian capital. All packets of the painkiller Nurofen Plus have been recalled amid fears they may have been sabotaged. 40% of adults in Britain are expected to be obese by 2030. How cheap, unhealthy food is fueling the problem.
Chips, you can buy microwave chips for like, what, £1? So that's just quick and easy. Pizzas are £1.75, something like that. Quick and easy meal for about £3. If you've got a load of kids, then that's what you're going to do.
And as Hurricane Irene sweeps towards New York, the mayor orders the biggest ever evacuation of the city.
On BBC London News, the government bans a planned march by the EDL after pressure from the Met Police. And businesses warn they face serious transport problems during the Olympics.
Good evening. More than 100 decomposing bodies have been found at an abandoned hospital in a part of the Libyan capital, Tripoli, where there's been fierce fighting between rebels and pro-Gaddafi forces. The hospital and its patients were deserted 5 days ago after medical staff were forced to flee sniper fire. Rescuers finally reached the hospital this afternoon, finding just 21 surviving patients. Our World Affairs editor John Simpson has been to the hospital. His report contains some distressing images.
What happened here at the Abu Saleem hospital over the past 4 days is one of the most terrible incidents of this entire revolution. Doctors have come in from across Tripoli to help out. We were told that, like the doctors, we'd have to wear surgical masks inside for our own safety. The hospital staff here all ran away days ago because of the fighting. But seriously injured people kept on being brought in, dozens of them, perhaps as many as 100 altogether. And here they died of their injuries, entirely untreated. The stench of death is overpowering, far too strong for the feeble efforts of this volunteer with his air freshener. The floor is thick with blood. The scenes which took place here defy the imagination. In one ward, Colonel Gaddafi's picture smiles down genially over the horror.
We simply can't show you the pictures in this room because they're too horrible. I've got to wear 3 of these surgical masks, and even so, the stench is absolutely nauseating. When you walk along the corridor, you've got to be really careful because there's blood everywhere and you could slip over so easily.
The doctors are deeply shocked by what they've seen.
I was in the mosque, I pray Jum'ah pray. Then the Imam told that they need some help in Abu Saleem hospital. I thought that they need the medical help. Okay, I volunteered to give some medical help to my people, but when I entered inside, there is nobody inside. They want help to clean the hospital, to bring life back to this hospital. And this is the catastrophe. Yeah. Never ever seen like this.
More and more of these things are starting to come to light now. This is the suburb of Gargur, silent and largely deserted. We came here with a group of rebels who are taking over the area. Some Gaddafi loyalists have been living here, and the green flags of the old regime were still flying, though the inhabitants were probably gone. But they'd left their mark. They'd shot down 8 ordinary people who'd come back to see if their homes were still safe. Death and more death, and new cases are being discovered all the time. John Simpson, BBC News, Tripoli.
British jets have joined in the military offensive against the city of Sirte, regarded as Colonel Gaddafi's last major stronghold in Libya. The advance by the opposition has run into fierce resistance. The town, 250 miles east of Tripoli, is Colonel Gaddafi's birthplace. It's home to around 100,000 people, including tribes still loyal to him. NATO has confirmed that RAF Tornadoes fired missiles at a large bunker in the city and destroyed 29 armed vehicles. Opposition fighters are advancing on 2 fronts, from Misrata in the west and from Ras Lanouf in the east, from where Paul Wood sent this report.
Though they can expect more hard fighting yet, the rebels are jubilant. Ahead lies Sirte, where thousands of Gaddafi troops are expected to make a last stand. The rebels plan to take it with a pincer movement from east and west. All around are signs of the advance.
I live in this house since...
Behind the fighters come civilians. One man returned to find his home looted by the old regime soldiers.
Actually, unfortunately, they looted the house completed. Where is my children's clothes? Nothing. They take also the toys of my children.
This, he says, is a small price to pay for freedom. He remembers when secret policemen took away a neighbour. They didn't see him for 14 years.
I was afraid at any time, same situation will happen with me. I will miss my family, I will miss my children, and will take me without any reason.
But loyalist artillery has halted the rebel advance at Ras Lanouf. NATO is helping with airstrikes. But the rebels say they are patient.
We let that dictator provoke us for 42 years. He kept promising us every single 6 months and changing systems and manipulating with the system. Every year we say, oh, give him a chance, he'll do better. But he never did.
What are people here fighting for? What is the kind of new Libya you want to see?
I like it to see it's better than England, or the best country over the world, the freedom, and everybody can do everything what he like, and will be like to be safer country. And nobody be afraid for anything, yeah? He can do anything, he can say anything. He's not be afraid anybody can catch him and kill him for nothing.
The rebels are a mixture of people who've never really held a gun before. Students, shopkeepers, businessmen. They are a pretty idealistic bunch, and they certainly talk the language of democracy. But the question is, what will happen if a new government disappoints their expectations? There are certainly a lot of guns in Libya today. Paul Wood, BBC News, outside Ras Lanouf.
Well, let's talk now to our world editor, John Simpson, in Tripoli. I mean, as we were hearing there, the rebel leaders, the National Transition Council, say they are ready to form government. But given the uncertainties on the ground, the number of weapons out there and the horrific scenes that you've witnessed, John, I presume it's going to take them some time to get Libya's infrastructure up and running again.
Absolutely, Fiona. You can probably hear the gunfire behind me. Also behind me, you can probably see some lights on. They are almost the only lights in the whole of Tripoli because the electricity supplies have been interfered with, and we're not quite sure why, and certainly cut. Water supplies have been cut also to much of the city, perhaps most of the city. People are driving all the way to the Tunisian border, 4 hours away, to buy water and bring it back. Bottled water here is just hugely expensive. And, you know, this is all a little bit disturbingly like what happened in Iraq after Saddam Hussein fell. And you don't have to like a dictator to like the orderliness and the controls that dictatorship brings. So I think there's big dangers here unless there's quick movement by the new government.
John Simpson in Tripoli, thank you. Nearly half the UK population could be dangerously overweight in 20 years' time unless action is taken now to tackle obesity, according to medical experts. Writing in the journal The Lancet, they say rich food, too little exercise and a lack of political will to take on the food industry are to blame. Among the options they say government should consider is a tax on unhealthy high-fat foods. Branwen Jeffries reports.
Watching our weight as a nation, scientists and doctors are worried about the UK. In 2009, 26% of adults were obese. By 2030, 40% of adults could be obese. That's 26 million people whose weight compared to their height is a lot higher than the normal range. So what are the daily choices feeding this rise? Rotherham in Yorkshire is a town with a weight problem. On every estate, fast food is easier to find than fresh food. Many families are shopping on a tight budget.
All it is 2 minutes in microwave if you want a pizza or something, and chips, you can buy microwave chips for like, what, £1? So that's just quick and easy. Pizza's are £1.75, something like that. Quick and easy meal for about £3. If you've got a load of kids, and that's what you're going to do.
Sometimes you do have to buy things that are on offer and things like that, which always tend to be things that are unhealthy.
When you talk to families, it's really clear that cost and convenience are the two big influences on the choices they make about foods. Quite simply, it can be cheaper and quicker to buy fast foods than to cook a meal with healthy ingredients. Rotherham is storing up health problems. A lot of extra weight increases the risk of serious diseases. The NHS here is spending millions to help the town lose weight. So is it time for tougher regulation by governments? Today's research says taxes on some food and drinks would save money, helping reduce consumption and saving health costs. Some states in the US are already looking at sugary drinks. Writing in The Lancet, researchers warn industry will resist this. Many compare the food industry to the tobacco business. Experts say it's not enough to give advice. Regulation changes the landscape.
This is the whole point about the policies, which are aimed not telling me or you what we should be eating or telling me that I need to go exercising, but to make that environment healthier so that the healthy choices is the easy choice.
But in England, the government wants to work with the food industry, not tell it what to do.
People won't get thinner by government regulating or taxing. There are a number of tools in the box that we have to use. Legislation and regulation is slow and can be counterproductive.
Changing the habits of a nation is hard. Experts say we can't do it on our own, but ministers believe it's down to us. Branwen Jeffries, BBC News, Rotherham.
And Branwen Jeffries is with me here now because Branwen, news has just broken that all packets of the painkiller Nurofen Plus are being recalled. Now, a lot of people are likely to have this on their shelves. What more can you tell us?
Well, Fiona, we got initial reports yesterday that in some packets of Nurofen Plus, strips of the tablets have been taken out and other medicines slipped in. Today there have been further reports, so we now know that there are a total of 5 cases involving 32 packets of tablets where 2 other medicines have been found, one that's used to treat epilepsy and one that's used to treat some common mental illnesses. Now, although those medicines in themselves aren't dangerous, obviously they should only be taken by people who've got a prescription for them. The police and the drugs manufacturer are working together. They believe that this is a case of sabotage. The key thing is that it's thought that around 250,000 packets are in the hands of consumers, sitting on people's bathroom shelves, in their handbags, on their kitchen table. It's very important that people check for Nurofen Plus, only Nurofen Plus, not the other types of Nurofen, and if they find any, they should return them immediately to a pharmacy while the investigation continues.
Thanks, Brendan. At least 18 people have been killed after a car packed with explosives was driven into the United Nations building in the Nigerian capital, Abuja. At least 60 others are thought to have been wounded in the suicide attack. A spokesman for a Nigerian radical Islamist group has told the BBC it carried out the bombing. Our security correspondent Frank Gardner reports.
Stunned, bleeding and in shock, survivors of this morning's bomb blast were brought out one by one. The attacker drove a car packed with explosives through 2 ineffective barriers before detonating it, destroying 2 stories and many of those within.
I actually counted like 5 dead bodies. Then the security agencies came around. From where I stood, I saw the whole windows shattered. So I gathered the other packed portion of the building was actually collapsed, and a lot of casualties.
It's the worst attack on a UN building in over 3 years. Suspicion immediately fell on the local extremist group Boko Haram. Soon afterwards, the group rang the BBC in Nigeria to claim responsibility. Today's bomb in Abuja marks a major escalation for Boko Haram. Up until now, they've targeted mainly Nigerian officials. So who are they? They are radical Nigerian Islamists. Their name in Hausa means Western education is sinful. Founded in 2002, they're seeking a Taliban-style government throughout Nigeria. Human rights groups say they've killed around 250 people in the last year after a failed government attempt to crush them. The UN Secretary-General was quick to condemn the blast.
This was an assault on those who devote their lives to helping others. We condemn this terrible act utterly. We do not yet have precise casualty figures, but they are likely to be considerable.
The investigation is being led by the Nigerian authorities, but the UN's own investigators will want to know how security was so badly breached and why the United Nations was singled out for this devastating attack. Frank Gardner, BBC News.
Coming up on tonight's programme. We built the stadium, but on the eve of the World Athletics Championships, we asked Team GB's Dutch coach if we've got the athletes to bring us medals at London 2012.
We can have the greatest stadiums and transport system, but if we don't win medals in athletics, I'm afraid that the British crowd would consider it as, you know, as maybe not such a big success.
The mayor of New York has ordered the biggest mandatory evacuations of parts of the city tonight ahead of the arrival of Hurricane Irene. It's already claimed lives and wrought havoc through the Bahamas. It's due to hit North Carolina tomorrow and America's most densely populated city, New York, on Sunday. Our correspondent Steve Kingston has just sent this report from there.
This teeming metropolis doesn't do hurricanes. But tomorrow lunchtime, the city that never sleeps will see its entire transit system grind to a halt, while more than 250,000 New Yorkers are being ordered to abandon homes at risk of flooding. In Coney Island today, the unprecedented evacuation had already begun, as the sick were shuttled to hospitals on higher ground. Up the road, we found residents of a nursing home waiting for transport.
How many guys are on this bus already?
And buses loading up passengers from sheltered housing for adults with learning difficulties.
We were told that the power may go off if the hurricane hits with full force, so I think it's a wise decision to evacuate people.
Some in this beachside community are unmoved, but if Irene does take a bite out of the Big Apple, The low-income housing blocks, which have seen better days, will be in the front line.
So many strange things have been happening in New York lately, with the earthquake on Tuesday and now this. I don't know what's going on.
The forecasters say it's still too early to be precise about where Irene might make landfall. But all along the east coast, the authorities are erring on the side of caution because they've already seen what this hurricane is capable of. In the Dominican Republic, Irene claimed 2 lives before barreling through the Bahamas, destroying homes. And in southern Florida, a glancing blow as a tidal surge swept holidaymakers off a pier. North Carolina is next. Its Outer Banks braced for a direct impact tomorrow morning.
If you are in the projected path of this hurricane, you have to take precautions now. Don't wait, don't delay. We all hope for the best, but we have to be prepared for the worst.
From space, Irene is immense, 600 miles wide with winds of 100 miles an hour. Slightly slower than before, but that's of little comfort to those who wait. Steve Kingston, BBC News, New York.
4 children have been orphaned after their parents died within days of each other during a family holiday to Morocco. Mathilde Lam fell from the 3rd floor balcony of their holiday apartment in the coastal resort of Essaouira. She later died in hospital. Her husband Roger fell down the stairs of a hotel just a few days later. Iris Robinson, the wife of Northern Ireland's First Minister Peter Robinson, has been cleared of any wrongdoing over a contract that was awarded to her then teenaged lover. An investigation was commissioned in response to a BBC Panorama programme that alleged she abused her position on Castlereagh Council to help her lover open a business with money from 2 developers. The BBC says it stands by its journalism. The economic growth figures are out on both sides of the Atlantic. US growth in the 2nd quarter was revised down, while here in the UK the latest estimate of growth between April and June was unchanged at 0.2%. The US Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke said the outlook for the months ahead was weaker than previously forecast, but he stopped short of announcing new measures to boost the economy. Assessing the implications is our chief economics correspondent, Hugh Pym.
It's the world's biggest economy, and a drop in activity in the USA sends ripples around global markets. Today, the US growth figure between April and June was revised down. So all eyes on this man, Ben Bernanke, the central bank chief, head of the Fed. He said today the growth outlook was weaker and all options to boost the economy would be discussed next month. When trading opened on Wall Street, shares fell at first, with some dealers disappointed the Fed chief hadn't done more now, including pumping new money into the economy with the policy known as quantitative easing. But other experts said there was no quick fix.
So here's the problem. If you drew up a list of the 15 things in Washington that would help reinvigorate the U.S. economy, quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve is probably number 14 or 15 on the list. The real problem is everything above it on the list requires a political decision, and the political process is gridlocked.
Shares in New York picked up when traders noted the Fed chairman was more optimistic longer term. All of this has implications far beyond this skyline. Here in London's financial markets, the mood can be strongly influenced by developments on the other side of the Atlantic. And with the United States being one of the UK's major trading partners, what goes on over there can have a big impact on companies and workers over here. Companies like this, for example, it makes conveyors for trucks and warehouses. Half its sales are exports, but right now it isn't getting any help from the United States.
We've not done any business with the US for some time now. It's been very quiet. And when you hear about further slowdowns and double-dip recessions, obviously it is worrying that it will make people sort of start to try and keep hold of their money again and not invest in capital equipment.
Advertising is a good barometer of the economy with so many clients in different industries. This leading agency boss gave me his take on the UK.
We're marooned. You know, it seems that things are just sort of stuck for a while, and we've just got to sort of hold tight until hopefully some growth comes back into it. You know, I don't think you see things sort of crashing, but on the other hand, there's not a lot of momentum in the right direction.
The figures show the UK has grown at the same pace as the US and ahead of France and Germany. Things are dull, but not altogether gloomy. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Team GB will put their ambitions for the Olympics on the line tomorrow with the start of the World Athletics Championships. The team are in South Korea to put their medal-winning potential to the test in the biggest track and field event before the Olympics themselves. Our sports editor David Bond is with them and has just sent this report.
Everywhere you look in Daegu, there are signs that something big is going on. But even here, the presence of the world's best athletes doesn't seem to be distracting people from their daily routines. Despite the low-key build-up, these championships are crucial for Britain's athletes. With a year to go to London 2012, the pressure is on to deliver success. Charles van Comenie is the uncompromising Dutch coach who has the task of ensuring the sport doesn't disappoint.
Because we can have the greatest stadiums and transport system, but if we don't win medals in athletics, I'm afraid that the British crowd would consider it as, you know, as maybe not such a big success. So medals in athletics are important. We're fully aware of it.
Medal targets for these World Championships reflect Van Comenie's desire to bring back the glory days. Britain's best World Championships came almost 2 decades ago in Stuttgart, when the team won a total of 10 medals. But more recently, the sport has been going backwards, with the low point coming in the Beijing Olympics, when the country won just 4 medals. Since 2009, there has been some improvement, with 6 medals in Berlin 2 years ago. In Daegu, they are aiming to go 1 better.
We have another world champion!
Britain's reigning heptathlon world champion is convinced the team are on track.
The past couple of years has shown that our performances at the World Championships in Berlin and the European Championships in Barcelona, you know, we've started winning a lot more medals and really improving. And I think we've got some really promising performances to have out here.
These championships are a crucial staging post for Britain's athletes on the road to next year's Olympics. But the task for the sport is not only to deliver success in London, but to create a new generation of stars who can dominate for years to come. The so-called golden generation of the 1980s is the benchmark being used by Van Comenie. But is it too much to expect this team to emulate those achievements?
This is a young team that, yes, we should be proud of our history, but it shouldn't be so burdensome that they feel that they're sort of permanently competing against what was going on.
Like Daegu, London knows its moment in the global sporting spotlight won't be remembered for the quality of the preparations. Winning medals is what counts. Failure to do so in athletics may prove difficult to swallow. David Bond, BBC News, in Daegu.
Well, there's more on the BBC News channel, including a first look at tomorrow's front pages. But now we can join our news teams where you are. Bye-bye.
At 3:38 p.m., the gang returned. It was a pretty messy sight. The chief decided it was time for a real cleanup and went right to work. And lucky for her, she had a new Philco Duomatic washer-dryer. The Duomatic does everything a washer can, everything a dryer can, and just as fast. In as little as 1 hour, clothes come out fluffy, dry, wrinkle-free. Now there's no need to buy a separate washer and dryer if you have a space problem. The Philco Duomatic is the answer. Only 26 3/4 inches wide, it's so compact you can put it anywhere, in a bathroom or kitchen, even in a closet. Fact is, there are more Duomatics in use than all other combinations combined. Another example of quality first by Philco.